Hello and welcome to We Will Talk About It, the Supernatural Rewatch podcast where we watch one episode every week, spoiler free. I'm Megan.
I'm Kat.
And this week we are watching season 1, episode 15, The Benders. I almost didn't get through that introduction. I'm fine, guys.
Yeah, I was just like, did you say supernatural? And I was like, am I high? I'm not.
We're not high, guys.
No.
Weed is not legal in Australia. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, very clear. No. But in the sense of, what? But yeah, this is, I mean, I'm going to say it again.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking forgot this episode existed.
Drink.
Double drink because, oh boy, strap yourself in. This is a doozy. It is a good episode.
Yes. I have a lot to say about this episode.
Oh, fantastic. I do too. More on this fact that I literally wrote half a page of notes because I was just sat on the couch watching going, what is happening here on this day?
Well, let's start with the basics. This episode was written by John Shaban, who was a X-Files writer.
Yep.
And directed by Peter Ellis, who also directed Bloody Mary, which was another one that we really liked in terms of how it was filmed. So
we're starting to see some emerging patterns.
Yeah, which I think that's really fun. Like, I'm starting to get to know the directors and the writers and kind of what we might expect from them. Like, I feel like this is a very classic almost, well, I will talk about it in a sec, but X-Files episode, you know, in terms of the kind of structure of it and how it's handled.
Yep.
But there is actually an X-Files episode that has a lot of shades of this episode. It's called, strangely, it's called Home. I'm not actually going to talk about the plot. You're not there yet in watching the X-Files. I think it's the second episode of season 4.
Okay, cool.
It is the one episode I don't rewatch.
Oh, good.
It is so disturbing and so dark and so upsetting that I don't watch it. It is the Jurassic Bark of the X-Files.
Yeah, see, look, I will not watch this episode ever again.
Oh, the Benders.
Oh, yeah. I was just like, now you're telling me that and having that I am watching, you know, in my spare time, X-Files.
Yeah. So there's lots of shades of that in this episode.
Okay.
But I would say that the X-Files episode is way more disturbing.
Oh, good,
by
great.
a long shot.
Fantastic. Look forward to that. Not really. Great, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, you're not going to enjoy it. I can assure you.
Megan is going to randomly get the all caps text messages of what the fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty dark.
Good.
But this episode is called The Benders, and that is from a bit of history called The Bloody Benders. Have you ever heard of them?
No, because I was going to say, like, I don't understand the reference of the Benders with the whole, you know, story in this episode.
Yes. So I will
tell me.
Give you a bit of information. So research this week came from, and that's why we drink. This was actually Christine, not M this time. Law, and also a My Favorite Murder episode. So Georgia covered the Bloody Benders. So I'm going to try and give you a quick history lesson. This is a real quick summary, guys. I highly encourage you to go listen to all 3 of those episodes if you would like to know actual more facts.
Just law in general. I love law.
Oh, yeah. Go listen to law. I mean, listen to our podcast, obviously, but go listen to everything Aaron Menke does because he is phenomenal.
That voice, it's so soothing.
It's so soothing. So in 1870, some German immigrants called the Benders moved to America. So this was John Sr. and John Jr. went out first. And then Mrs. Bender, who's called both Elvira and Kate, and also what?
No, never mind. Continue. I think I do know this, but continue.
Okay, sure. And Kate Jr., which was their daughter, followed. So we've got mum and dad, and then
the juniors,
the 2 kids,
the juniors.
They said that they were spiritualists, which was pretty massive at the time, and that Kate Jr. could speak to the dead. John Sr. didn't speak almost any English. Elvira spoke very little. It was very unpleasant, apparently. John Jr. was fluent in English, but my notes said he was a bit off, so I don't remember what that means because I wrote these notes a while ago, but he wasn't quite right. And Kate Jr. was outgoing and quite cultivated for the time and location. So they started what became known...
What a box of mixed favorites.
Oh, yeah. So this became known as the Bender Inn. It was a general store and inn because, you know, we're talking the 1870s, big swaths of land, like not many people live there, like big stops between towns. And so people would set up an inn, which is where you'd come and you'd stop to rest your horses and have food and have water and then move on the next day. And that's kind of what this inn was. So it was a pit stop for travelers. because everything takes forever is what my note says.
Yep. Tracks.
And that's why it was also like a general store because they
Yeah,
could get
generally like a
provisions.
general store. Yeah, in / probably also was a mail stop.
Yes.
You know,
I really misunderstood what you meant by mail stop just then.
Oh, as like where mail stops, like gets delivered,
Yeah,
like a post office, but not really a post office.
Not that kind of mail stop.
Yeah, no,
it might be.
No, look, we don't know.
We don't know if there are any fancy.
We don't know if Kate Senior was, moonlighting
turning tricks.
turning tricks. We don't. We unconfirmed.
Unconfirmed. So people tended to disappear, but no one noticed because they were just passing through this area. No one was keeping track. There was so much movement in America at that time.
Sheriffs.
This was kind of pre-sheriffs. This was kind of pre a lot of things. So it's hard to keep track. What with there being no phones is what I've said.
Yep. Also tracks.
So a man named George and his infant daughter went to migrate to a new town, and they never came back. So his neighbor William noticed and decided to go find them. But William was smart. He told a bunch of people in case something happened. So after he also went missing,
William, he knows what's up.
Colonel York and Senator York.
Sorry, did you say Colonel?
Colonel.
Okay.
Colonel York and Senator York and 50 soldiers went to look
50 soldiers, my
went
God.
to look for William after he went missing. Like I said, this is a really quick summary, guys. I feel like William was an important person. I also don't know if Colonel York and Senator York are related to each other.
But also
or
50
if it's a
soldiers.
coinkydinky.
That's a hefty, gathering.
Yes. Again, I feel like William might have been important, but my notes are very summary.
They're very
Please
vague.
Go listen to all of the podcasts that I will link in the show
maybe even
notes.
do a wiki. Who knows? And then pick the one.
Go listen to the podcast. Support independent podcasts, guys. So he found the Bender Inn. The Benders were like, "Oh, my notes are nuts." The Benders were like, "Oh yeah, we remember them, but they left and probably got taken by Native Americans." I get the feeling they didn't say Native Americans.
No, they would have said some other things.
But then other people, such as their neighbors, were like, "Lol, no, the Benders were well dodgy."
Dodgy. Were you actually high and drunken when you were writing
I don't remember when I wrote these notes, but these are some top quality.
They are
notes
some
from me.
zesty, spicy notes.
So they stayed in the inn.
Well dodgy.
They stayed in the inn. After they got told that the Benders were well dodgy, they decided to do a massive search of the whole town. And when they got back to the Benders Inn, the cabin was empty and no one was there, but they could smell something coming from the trap door. And then my notes say in brackets, "Don't you open that trap door. There's something down there." So maybe I was drunk when I wrote these.
Yeah, look,
notes.
look. My brain, when you they smelt something coming from the trapdoor, and my brain just instantly went to, "Don't you open that trapdoor." But that's my brain.
There's something down there. I would try and find a clip of the stop motion animation that's from our childhood.
It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, really ooky spooky. Probably too scary for children, but it was allegedly
look,
show.
It was clay animation. It was great.
So this is where things get a bit like he said, she said, because in some versions of the story, they went into the cellar. In other versions, they removed the whole cabin to look like they lifted it up, and because everything was made out of wood.
Oh, I'm sorry, there's 50 soldiers. Yeah, there's 50 soldiers. So of course they could just be like, "All right, boys, 1, 2, but not so."
1, 2, bend with the knees.
Yeah.
And they probably had like horses and stuff.
Yes.
So I don't know which one of those are true, but basically they either couldn't open the cellar door. It was like stuck shut, and we'll explain with what in a sec. Or they opened it and they couldn't get in there. Like the smell was too intense because basically it was full of blood. And
like a blood pool?
It was like, that's why it was stuck, was because of all the bodily fluids and blood.
Congealed.
I'm
sorry, it's so gross.
No, I just read the rest of my notes. What was wrong with me when I wrote these notes?
I mean, probably because you read that they basically had a swimming pool full of blood, and then you're just like, well, I'm already on the loopy train. Let's continue with the loop.
Away. So obviously that means that they've murdered a lot of people.
That's a lot of people to make.
Yeah, so
your own bathtub of blood.
The colonel noticed depressions in the ground that seemed suspect. They found at least 8 bodies in the ground, but they could have been buried on top of even more people.
Oh, fucking hell.
They also think that one of the children they found was buried alive with her dead dad on top.
Oh.
So I think that was William
and his infant
George
daughter?
and his infant daughter.
Sorry, yes.
But I don't again, this is kind of where that's the better version, is that's who it was and that's what started all of this. But probs, no, it was like someone else that they murdered. So basically what they worked out that they would do is that the Benders at some point during dinner, because basically there was a like canvas between the inn and the general store.
Yeah.
And so you'd sit at the like table with your back to the canvas. And so at some point someone would go round behind the canvas, slit the throats of everybody.
Yeah.
Like reach through the canvas, slit their throats, and then like throw them into
the pool,
into the trap door. And then they'd go through and find all their belongings, because obviously these are people who are traveling with like everything that they own and everything that they have. And so they would be stealing all of their money and all of their belongings. And that was kind of like the point, but only like kind of, because they didn't ever get a ton of money. But here's the fun bit. The Benders were never caught. Okay. They just disappeared. So they just went off and lived the rest of their lives having murdered who knows how many people, including children. Also, there's no proof that they were even a family. In fact, they think Kate Jr. and John Jr. were actually married to each other. They weren't related. They were just a married couple, but they pretended to be siblings to like add to the ruse. This is my notes. There was no proof they were even a family, just a bunch of psychos who liked to murder and somehow figured that out about each other. Also, obviously, the location is insanely haunted. So that's the Bloody Benders, and that's the origin of the name of this episode. So,
well, I'm not going to have spaghetti tonight.
Yeah,
I made a really nice ragu with some pappardelle. Kat's gonna have a toasty sandwich.
Yeah,
Kat's not feeling too good right now. And I mean, I'm not even joking, guys. Like, whew, the congealed blood got me.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I think you can see the links to this episode.
I don't want to, but I do. I don't wanna, but I'm an adult and I'm a grown ass woman who's independent. But I don't wanna, but I do. But I wanna. I don't wanna. I wanna go home.
Well, not yet. We have to actually talk about the episode.
No, I know, but I don't wanna.
So we open. We're in Hibbing in Minnesota.
Yep.
A boy is watching what's sort of implied to be maybe a scary movie or like a horror film, and he hears an spooky sound. And he goes to have a look. He sees his neighbor going to take out the rubbish.
In an alleyway?
In sort of their shared car park of their apartment. And then he gets taken by
undetermined.
Something. But that was the cold open. We now cut to Sam and Dean interviewing the boy and his mother the next day. This is the second episode. So we just did Nightmare where they dressed up as priests. And this time they're in like full state police
gear
costumes. They've really gone all in on this.
You know that they haven't just stolen it. They wouldn't have hurt someone to get the gear, but you know they would have pulled a Swiftie on them to get the gear.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of them like slowly building up costumes over time that they can use. They are talking to this boy and his mum, and the boy is saying how he heard this weird noise and it sounded like a monster, and then his mum's like, well, tell them what you were watching, and he's like, I was watching Godzilla versus Mothra. And Dean
fangirling.
Yeah, Dean immediately starts like fangirling about it and being like, oh my God, how good, it's so much better than the original. And then he like teases Sam for liking the new version, which would have been the Matthew Broderick version from 1998. But I will say, like, they sort of like, everyone kind of gives Dean a bit of side eye for this, but it's a pretty good way to connect with a kid and get them to talk to you, is to be enthusiastic about the thing that they're talking about. Like, I don't know, I don't think it's a bad technique on Dean's part, like, because
the kid like opens up a little bit more. He gravitates more to Dean. He looks at Dean more like
yeah. So I think that, you know, Dean, he's got that moxie, he's got that street smarts, like he knows how to connect with people. So
yep.
So he reveals that it sounded like a growling kind of wheezing sound.
Yep.
And then we cut to a bar. Sam and Dean are talking about the disappearances, and that, you know, it could be just a normal disappearance.
Yep.
Except in Dad's journal, this place has been flagged as being a place where for potential for I think what did they call it, like a vanishing
spirit, or
what I do know, I don't remember what they called it, but what I do know is that they referenced a phantom attacker.
That's it.
Thank you, Supernatural Wiki, as always. But they did reference Spring Hill Jack,
Mm-hmm.
which we were just speaking about lore. Spring Hill Jack was one of the really, 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 like one of the first episodes of lore I ever listened to was about Spring Hill Jack. I will find it and I'll put it in the show notes because it's an episode I still think about. And yeah, it was a really early one. And yeah, if you would like to learn more about who Spring Hill Jack is, I will link the lore episode. There was just a passing reference in this episode, so not going to go too deeply into it here. So they decide to stick around to investigate more because it's been flagged by their dad. And it is interesting. This is the first time I think you see Sam interacting with Dad's journal. And Sam's the one being like, Dad's pointed this place out. He's listed it. So
he's taking the lead on this one.
Yeah. And it's interesting to sort of see as we've gone through with a lot of, Home and Nightmare and all these episodes to sort of see Sam's attitude towards their dad softening a little.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting because I don't think we've actually seen Sam interact with Dad's journal up until this point.
Versus, I think there was a couple of episodes where Dean's driving and Sam's looking at it, but he's being told it obviously happened off screen where Dean has been like, open the journal, this is where we're going, what's it say? Versus, as you said, Sam using the journal as a reference point.
Yeah, exactly. And so I thought that was really interesting. So Sam says that there's a motel down the road and that they should turn in for the night. Dean's a bit more keen for a
pate,
for a couple more beers. But he eventually agrees and says, "Fine, we'll do that. I've just got to take a slash." I don't think he says that, but he says something along those lines. I think taking a slash is very like Australian slang.
It's I think he said, "I'm going to go take a leak or something." And he'll meet him outside, just go wait by the car.
Yeah. So Sam goes outside. It's kind of a dodgy biker bar. He's kind of looking around and he hears the sound. He turns his little flashlight on. He looks under the car. It's a cat.
Standard cat.
So he's like, oh, very like good, sort of a bit of a fake out. And then we sort of hear a sound and then it cuts to an overhead shot of the bar and Dean is coming out and it's clearly later and Sam is gone.
Yeah.
And
Dean is worried.
Dean immediately panics and it's really because obviously they're here investigating a phantom traveler and someone who's or something that's taking people. And it's really interesting to see Dean in this kind of very real, normal,
vulnerable situation
that happens to regular people.
Yep.
That his brother has gone missing.
Yep.
And it's the one thing that does not make sense today, but made way more sense back then is you'll just be like, call them on your phone. Like, hello, where are you? But back then, I'm sure that it wouldn't have occurred to them and they would have been like, oh, it would have been much more plausible that Sam would have had his phone in the car or in his backpack or like
not
he wouldn't
on
have
him.
Not physically
because they were
him.
Flip phones. They were not the
because Sam has a little like
Palm Pilot-y
fake BlackBerry situation.
Yeah, he has a little Palm Pilot-y kind of scenario thing happening. That's right. That may or may not get internet.
Who knows? Unclear.
Yep.
The mysteries of the internet and the supernatural universe.
Sorry. All we know is that he has an email called Lawboy.
Yes, that's all we can deduce. But yeah, so that's the kind of the one thing that these days they'd be like, we'll just call them on their mobile.
Yeah.
But at the time,
we'll use find my phone apps, those things.
Exactly. But at the time, it would have made sense. It probably wouldn't have been a plot point they felt like they needed to work through.
Because I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it. I'm like, actually, you're very right because the phone didn't have enough charge.
Yeah.
Or it was in one of his like a backpack. It wasn't on his person.
No. Unlike now where your phone never leaves your possession at any time. You always know where your phone is.
Keys, wallet, phone.
So the next day, Sam goes to the sheriff's office to make a missing persons report. Obviously,
as a state officer.
Yeah. He's obviously pretending to be someone else, but then also he can't be Dean Winchester because Dean Winchester was killed in St. Louis a certain amount of time ago. So,
well, he knows this.
So he's pretending to be Sam's cousin.
Yeah.
The sheriff takes the report. This is Deputy Kathleen Huddock.
Yep. And for those who don't know me personally, hi, how you going? I'm Kat, but my actual legal name is Kathleen.
Yes.
So through this entire episode, Kat, being me, was every time we'd hear Kathleen, would be like, what's going on? It was a very much like jolting episode because my name is quite an old name and it's quite, we've had Kat and Kathleen in this season.
I know.
And it's like, I can barely find, as you can testify, when you go to get, your key ring with your name on it or like a license plate, there's not enough boards. There's also not enough Kathleen's or Meghan's. So to have both my preferred name being Kat and my legal name Kathleen all in the one season of a very popular show, it's a mindfuck a bit.
Yeah.
Saying it.
So Kathleen starts to help Dean, who is going by the name of Greg, which made me laugh a lot.
Yeah, because he does not look like a Greg.
No, but this is the first time that we see that Sam's full legal name is Samuel. So we haven't actually discussed this before or had this before. You've called him Samuel a few times, but I think that that's just because you were telling this fictional character off.
Like, yes. That seems very on brand for me.
Yes. But yeah, his full legal name is Samuel.
But also, this is the first episode, and I'm going to say this, guys. Like, this is the first episode where I literally just put my pen down and was just like, what the fuck is happening? Completely, we took a left-hand turn down to Fuckville.
Yeah.
Destination, everybody fucked. Yeah, so my notes are very, very thin because Kat was with her mouth open the entire episode. Because what?
You can sort of tell as well with Kathleen starting this investigation, the frustration Dean feels about how slow the real world works. You know, he is a man of action.
Yep. And now,
and as a hunter, time is of the essence, and he's not used to having to go through any kind of red tape to do anything that he needs to do. But his brother has disappeared in a almost normal way, and so he has to kind of follow this path because what he realized the night before, and part of the reason he's doing this, that there was a CCTV camera at the bar.
Yeah, and on the highway.
And that was going out on the highway. So he needs the help of real people.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the technological capabilities to break in and access that.
No.
We now cut, and again, this is another episode, kind of like Scarecrow, where we're cutting between the two of them because they're not together.
Yeah, exactly.
So we now cut to Sam. He is in a cage.
He is in a cage.
He sees another man, Alvin Jenkins, which is the man that disappeared in the cold open.
Yep.
And he's trying to work out what's going on, like where is he? Like what's happening, really trying to put the pieces together. In the meantime, we now go back to Dean. Kathleen has gotten the CCTV cameras.
Yep.
And she flips through and she points out a really kind of old, decrepit kind of camper van sort of situation.
Jeepers Creepers style.
Very Jeepers Creepers, very creepy. And she's like, that van left just after Sam disappeared. And if you have a look, you can see the van is very old, but the plates are brand new. So the plates are clearly stolen. So that's very suspicious. And so as they're having this conversation, another van drives past and it's very old and it sounds like it's wheezing and rasping. And Dean's like, does that sound like a wheezing, rasping kind of monster to you? And Kathleen's like, oh, I guess. And Dean's like in shock because you can see that he's worked something out.
But yeah, like when Dean definitely makes that connection, like that sounds like a wheezy, growling noise. He's obviously planting the seed from the cold opening or from just after the cold opening with the boy who heard a wheezing, growling sound outside and then the man was gone. He's making the connection that potentially that's actually what the kid heard. He didn't hear a monster. He heard a fucked car.
We now cut back to Sam. The things that have attacked him and that have taken him come into the barn or wherever they're trapped and they feed Alvin. They don't feed Sam.
Nope.
And as they're exiting, Sam, again, I wish I could remember what they actually say, but something like, I can't believe it. It's just people.
Yep.
And which for them kind of is scarier because when it's monsters, you know how to hunt a monster, but when it's people, it's just people.
It's just people. And people are unpredictable.
Yes. He's like, I can't believe it's just people. Alvin, of course, is like, of course it's just people.
You psycho.
Like, they're probably fattening up before they Ned Beatty me. You've made a few Deliverance references.
Yep, I'm here.
So this is the episode where you can make Deliverance references because they make Deliverance references. For anyone who doesn't know what that means, Wikipedia the plot of Deliverance, and then you'll know what that means. But Sam thinks that that's the least of his problems because he's very aware now that they are in mortal danger of some kind. Dean and the sheriff are looking for the van. They're trying to find the turnoff because there's lots of private roads along here. But meantime, the sheriff gets a notification because she had submitted Dean's badge information for like accounting purposes, and it's come back as a stolen
Stolen
badge. And Dean's
Standard.
like, oh yeah, you know, that happens. And he's like, yeah, they also had a picture, and it's obviously a much larger
Yeah. Hello.
African-American man.
Yes.
And Dean tries to kind of talk his way out of it, but she obviously immediately is completely not interested. She's like, nah. And I must admit, Dean gives a really impassioned, thoughtful speech about Sam being his responsibility. He's still kind of playing up this cousin idea that he's definitely not Dean Winchester. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I must say I got pretty distracted by Jensen's lips during this scene.
All right.
He's got great lips, guys.
Oh, he does. He's also got a fantastic smile.
Yes, and so I don't quite remember all of the plot points that he covered.
He was really leaning in with what I've discussed, and you've discussed too, but about how he can switch off his emotions very quickly to get a job done, to get through the thick of it and just, you know, call it a day.
Yeah.
Tick a box. He really turned on his emotional tap, lent into it, and I think he somehow worked out, because he's not an idiot, he's got that moxie. He's empathized with Kathleen on some level, because then Kathleen gives us this great reveal, like, I understand where you are coming from. I'm not going to arrest you because I was also responsible for my brother who's gone missing.
Yeah.
And given the fact that we've had, this town has a lot of missing people, because it's disclosed throughout the episode that so many people go missing in this town and no one knows why, that she's kind of willing to put all that shit aside based on the speech that Dean gives.
Yeah.
So then, you know, on their merry way.
Yes. So she says, he's like, turn me in, do what you have to, but we have to find Sam first.
Yep.
And she agrees. She says, that's fine, we'll go and find Sam first.
Yep.
We cut back to Sam and Alvin. Sam's trying to break loose. He's managed to break part of something off, but it's all electronic. Keeping them trapped in. And just as he's finished pulling it, the doors open. And Sam's very suspicious. He's immediately like, no, I don't think we should go out. But Alvin is like, no, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, peace out, bro.
I'm taking my chances. But Sam's like, absolutely not. And it turns out Sam is correct, because we now get the reveal of what these people are doing. For anyone who isn't familiar, there's a short story called The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell, which is kind of also a plot for this episode. And so the idea is that the most dangerous game to hunt are human beings. Yeah. And I feel like we see this a lot in lots of different movies.
There's a Simpsons Halloween episode where Mr. Burns is hunting game, and the game is, you know, all the men of Springfield. You know, obviously that was more comical than it was, you know, this current episode of Supernatural.
Yes.
And yeah, it feeds into, as Sam and Dean have made, you know, snippets here and there in other episodes of, you know, demons, ghosts, ooky spooky stuff. They understand because they generally all stick to a formula. People, as we all know, being people ourselves, you don't know where they're going to go. You don't know how fucked up's going to be.
Yeah. So I think even Sam at one point says, like, with people, with, you know, monsters, there are rules. Yeah. And with humans, there are no rules. They are doing things for their own purposes.
Yep.
So Alvin gets hunted and ultimately killed by the men that we've seen sort of come in and out throughout this episode. We now cut back to Dean and the sheriff the next morning. They are going to try and find where this van might have gone. They've kind of worked out roughly where it should be. Yep. And they find a sort of secluded driveway that they turn down. The sheriff is pretty unkeen to let Dean come with her. She's not. No, she's like, no, I'm pretty sure you're a criminal. Yep. And so I'm not having you come with me. And she cuffs him to her car,
which I find fucking hilarious. Obviously for the next couple of scenes coming up on what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. And so she goes alone up to this kind of really creepy house.
Sure does.
And she meets a weird, creepy girl.
With very dreadlocked black teeth, you know, all that. You know, just think of a really scary kid who is kind of, you think maybe a victim.
She's called Missy, and she doesn't seem to be particularly verbal.
No.
At least initially. No. But it's revealed pretty quickly that that's all an act. She's looking at a picture of Sam and she starts to smile, and Kathleen's like, oh, what, honey? She's like, that's going to hurt. And then what's
Bam.
revealed to be her dad knocks Kathleen out.
With a shovel.
In the meantime, Dean is trying to break free. He's using the car antenna to break out of the cuffs. Moxie. He's got Moxie. He's like, I have a problem. I need to solve it.
MacGyver, but also more so on the Moxie side.
Exactly. And he, just in time as well, because what turns out to be the sons of the dad that we have just met, I guess.
Yeah.
Through violence, but nonetheless, they're coming back. They've got the van, and so he gets out just in time as they're coming back in.
Yeah, because they see the police vehicle and go, oh, I wonder what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Dean has managed to skin of his teeth, probably not a good phrase to use in this episode.
No.
Has managed to get away.
Yeah, and so we cut back. Kathleen is now in the cage where Alvin was.
Yep.
Sam is there too still. She wakes up and she's like, Sam, is that Sam Winchester? And he's like, yeah, you okay? Like instant Sam, I will say, of being like just checking if they're okay. They're sort of getting their bearings, and then we see the door open and feet coming in, and then it's revealed to be Dean.
Yep.
Now, there's a few references in this episode to Deliverance, the movie.
Yep.
And if you watch the scene back, Dean's mouth is moving because he's actually humming the theme song from Deliverance.
Of course he is.
But they couldn't get the rights
at the time.
For copyright for him to actually, so that you'll just see his mouth moving, but there's no sound coming out, and that's because they had to cut the sound.
Oh, that would have been so good.
Because they couldn't get the rights to it.
I can hear Dean just being so Moxie sassy.
Oh, yeah.
The ling ding 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 ding.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I'm hearing it I'm hearing it in my head.
And so he comes in, Sam's like, oh, thank goodness. And the way that this episode is written, and the way this particular scene, the dialogue is written, I really like it because it's clearly written so that we see it from Kathleen's perspective.
Yeah, not my perspective.
Not your perspective.
No.
Of them being the Winchesters and having someone on the outside who has no clue who they are, no clue what's going on. Like, why are they so on this? Why are they so, like, chilled about getting out? And, like, I just really appreciated the way they wrote the dialogue and the way they delivered it. Because it's not like it's directed from her perspective. Like, you're not watching it necessarily. Like, there's one kind of cut to her of being confused, but just the way that it's all put.
The exchange
is really, really clearly centered on, like, being confused. And I will say, this is kind of the first episode that you get that sense of, like, you don't mess with the Winchesters.
No.
Like, this is not who you want, because as we find out in a little bit, they've been doing this for years and years and years and years and years, and they've never been caught because they've always been so clever against regular people.
Yeah.
Second, a Winchester gets involved, that's when you're fucked.
Yep.
Like, and I kind of like that this is that first little sense that you get that if you want trouble, go to the Winchesters, because they will bring you the trouble you want.
It's not really a spoiler, but it's definitely, they lean on these in future episodes we will talk about. You will see this very glaring, we have a problem, and the problem isn't normal, and then the next scene the boys rock up, and there's a reason why.
So they're trying to figure out how to break Sam and Kathleen out, and having this kind of exchange about what to do. Sam says there's a key that would open the electronic gate. And so Dean goes into the house to try and find the key. And you can hear someone, I don't know how to describe this, butchering what we assume to be Alvin. And I have a question, which is, do we think they ate them?
Having watched this episode and basically in my notes end at the cop is called Kathleen, that's how far back I stopped, because I was like, what is the fuckery that is transpiring in front of me? What is this performance? Yes, I also had a flash to, like, oh God, Catherine Knight, who is, for those who don't know, again, go listen to it. Just pick.
Yeah, I was going to say, Case File did an amazing episode.
You.
Either All Aussie Mystery Hour or The Zesters History have done a good episode on her. I'll find out. I'll put links in the show notes.
I've read the books. Look, she was from an area that was very close to us where we live. She was basically a lady who is our she holds an Australian record for being the first female murderer to never get parole because she decided to slice and skin and drip her partner's body up and then quarter him like a piece of meat, put it in broth, and serve it to his children.
Well, she intended to serve it to her
They
kids.
didn't see it, but she made place cards and names. Yeah. She set out a spread, and the spread was their father. I mean that in the most non-disrespectful way, but that is bare bones. So when I was watching... bare bones. Oh, God, phrasing. Watching this and seeing the potential of a carcass and not knowing if it's, pig or man pig.
I think that it would definitely be...
It'd be long pig, wouldn't it?
It would be long pig for sure.
Yeah, and just knowing that, that's why Kat stopped writing notes, because Kat's like, this.
So I didn't go there. I actually went Ed Gein.
His nipple belt. All I remember is his nipple belt.
Oh, yeah. I was like, nipple belt guy. Who's the nipple belt guy?
Ed Gein.
Ed Gein.
Yeah.
So that's where I went. I went Ed Gein.
You went Ed Gein. I went Catherine. I mean, both relevant in this context of this episode. I have questions, and they will never be answered because obviously no one's answering these questions in this episode. But what are they doing with the skin? You can't eat it.
No. Maybe I don't know. So Dean now meets Missy, the girl. Again, she puts on this sense of being, because she's a child, and so there's this sense that therefore she must be innocent.
Yeah,
and
not always
then
the case.
She obviously isn't, and she attacks Dean, and then one of her brothers knocks him out.
Can I just say, the acting between this child actor, or I should say actress, and Dean is fucking phenomenal because they're playing off each other. And it's almost like a young Millie Bobby Brown. Thank you. Like, Millie Bobby Brown is a phenomenal actress, like phenomenal. Obviously Stranger Things, and obviously the Sherlock Holmes movie. Oh, can't think of it right now. Alona. Or Eleanor, whatever.
Enola.
Thank you. You got that. You got that. I didn't. So this was giving me some of those vibes, like the way they're playing off each other. Like, Dean's obviously like, don't scream, don't make a noise, and she's just like, Daddy!
Yeah.
And it's great. It's like the panic in Dean's face and her reaction, and just, it's fucking fantastic. Anyway, sorry, I just really want to make a comment that's where I was like, damn, that's some really good acting. Back into the grossness.
So there's a really good fight scene in here as well with Dean and the two brothers. And it is fun for me watching this more carefully to see how much like Jensen and the actors are doing themselves compared to stunt doubles. And they do a lot of themselves. And I just think that's really cool. And I probably would be the same, where I'd be like, could I do this myself? I'm going to try. But eventually they knock Dean out. They tie him up. And this is where we get the full reveal that they hunt people for sport.
Yeah, just for fun.
Because, the world's greatest game is man, and they've, been doing it for years. And
I reckon it'd be generational, but also, where's the mum?
Yeah, I mean, questions that we don't get answers to. Missy at the start says that mum's dead.
Yeah.
But we don't really know. We're not really sure who mum is and how she might be related to them.
And if, these people... brothers and sisters are actually brothers and sisters.
Yes.
If you know what I'm saying.
I do. It's implied, but it's not revealed in the episode.
There's no Russian, unlike the previous episode, there's no Russian nesting doll of reveals.
No. So they're then trying to sort of torture Dean to see if anyone else is coming for them.
Because
and one of my favorite lines from the episode is they're getting ready to torture him, and they're like, tell us if there's anyone else coming from him. And he's like, oh, eat me. Actually, no, you might actually do that.
Yeah.
And so that...
Dean just being Moxie and sassy.
Moxie Dean. And then ultimately the dad gives Dean an ultimatum, decide who we're going to hunt.
Yep.
The boy or the girl.
Yeah.
And Dean chooses Sam, which for me makes total sense because he's like, Sam will take them out, no problems. They don't know what they've got here. And again, that's that sense of like, you don't understand who you've brought into this.
Yeah, you don't know who you've brought to this fight.
Yeah.
You've picked to quote Todrick Cole, you got the wrong bitch.
Yeah. You've brought the Winchesters to you, and you don't want that.
No.
So he sends one of his sons out, but he says kill Sam in the cage and then kill the woman too.
I think he says kill the bitch.
Yes, I wasn't going to say
that. It's look, I said it because only just so you can get the sense of these people are not people.
No, they are definitely
ferals.
The bad guys.
Oh yeah, they're ferals.
And so Dean is, of course, like freaking out and trying to stop it.
Yeah.
We go to the barn. Sam has broken off part of the cage and he throws that at the
wall
at the brother and sort of stops the brother from killing him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have a fight in the barn. The dad and the other brother go out to try and stop it, which leaves just Missy watching Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And Dean's obviously not keen to go up against a little girl, her again, but also I think probably doesn't want to actually hurt her.
No.
And so we get this great kind of fight with Kathleen and with Sam in the barn. Kathleen like drops from the ceiling onto them and like eventually takes both of the brothers and the dad out.
Yep.
Sam goes to go in and get Dean and rescue Dean. And Kathleen is like, no, I'm going to stay here and
with
watch.
a shotgun. With
the shotgun to watch the dad. And we've sort of found out through this that Kathleen's brother went missing. He went missing in very much the same way. And Dean found his car.
Yeah.
In the back lot because they've been keeping the cars of all the people that they've taken, which again kind of links in with the Bloody Benders in terms of like they would keep all the stuff that of the people that they murdered. And Sam sort of gives her a bit of a look, but he goes in to get Dean and Kathleen tries to talk to the dad and try to understand. And she's like, you killed my brother. And then he sort of starts to laugh and like, oh, that makes sense. She's like, I just need to know why. And he laughs and says, because it's fun. And we don't see it. It happens off screen. You just hear a single shot. And the story she gives Sam and Dean is that he tried to escape and got shot. But the implication is that she killed him for what he did to her brother. Yeah. Which is really interesting. It's a really interesting choice because it's not the choice that I think Sam or Dean would make. And I think that that's really interesting. Yeah. That their morals are so unique in their world that they live in. Like Dean has talked about killing a human a couple of times.
But he's never done it.
And Sam's always been there to tell him no. And, you know, the dad at one point even asked Dean, like, oh, have you ever killed? And he's like, well, that depends what you mean, which definitely implies that Dean's only ever taken kind of monster life, I guess you'd say.
Supernatural, as you will.
The supernatural life. But, yeah, so I just think it's really interesting that she kills this man. Yep. And that she chooses to kill him.
Yep.
But she also decides to let Sam and Dean go.
Yep, and doesn't even, she chalks them out as they got away.
Yep, they escaped when I wasn't looking. And so that way they didn't have to answer any questions. Yep. They tried to get a lift from her and she's just like, I think you're pushing your luck there, guys.
Yeah, I like how she's like, so the road down the left?
Yep.
And you're like,
start walking.
Yeah, pretty much. On your bike.
Mm-hmm. And so they walk off back to go on their next adventure. Sam is teasing Dean for getting taken out by a 13-year-old girl.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the end of the episode.
Thank God.
So this is a wild episode because obviously this is the first episode we've had where the monster of the week is people.
Yep.
But I do think that it's really necessary to have an episode like this where it not the supernatural.
Yeah, it balances it out, keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, and it's also obviously interesting from a moral perspective.
Yep.
Because with monsters, as they say in the episode, and even Dean says, demons I get, people are crazy.
Yep.
You know, with monsters there are rules. With monsters there's an understanding as to why they do that. With people there is a choice that they have made to take other human life.
Yep. And
that is something that the boys find really hard to wrap their heads around because they're like, why would you do this by choice when there's enough out there that's going to take you out anyway?
Exactly. And because they've gone past the veil, they know that there's stuff out there that should have more attention brought to it, but it's not because people don't believe.
Exactly. And you know, they fight to make sure that people can live in a world where they don't have to know that the nightmares that are truly out there. So I think it's a really good episode in that perspective.
Like a learning episode as well about how the boys feel about where they stand on the spectrum. Because I think at this, like when you're watching for the first time, you will start to get, if you haven't already, started asking questions like, do they kill people?
Yeah.
This is a really good like temper check of where they sit on that scale. And we obviously know that no, they won't kill people just because they're bad.
Yeah. So
that's it.
Yeah, that's it from us today. go follow us on Instagram. We will talk about it pod.
Mhm.
We are on Twitter at We Will Talk Pod. Go and subscribe on your favorite app. If you can, please leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That's how other people can find us, and that gives us a chance to be in things like New and Noteworthy.
Yep.
If you know someone who loves Supernatural or
Yep.
loves
A work colleague,
a friend, a family member, tell them about us and get them to listen. You can find all of our show notes, including a lot of references to true crime podcasts.
Oh boy, especially this episode. She is peppered
with true crime.
Oh yeah.
Is at wewilltalkaboutit.com, and you can email us at wewilltalkaboutitpod@gmail.com. But in the meantime, stay safe and squeal like a pig, boy.
Oh my God.
Bye.
Bye.